Welcome back, everybody. We are here for another one of your questions about work. And for those of you who are here for the first time, I'm Roy. I'm a startup investor in the future of work. And one of the pleasures of my job is that I get to know not only founders, but founders who build communities with other founders of different types. And Mara Zepeda is the co-founder, and she now runs Zebras Unite, which is my favorite kind of community, which is not like every other like Silicon Valley thing that I see all day long, but a community that's united around a different set of values. And one of the things that I see in all founder communities is the great founders of anything tend to be really obsessed with their own improvement. They like have a growth mindset. And so the question that we're going to talk about today is, how should I think about how much time I devote to this quest of self-improvement, whatever you want to call it, upskilling, training, learning, personal growth and development. And Mara, feel free to say if you want to elaborate on what Zebras Unite is. And thank you for joining us in day 182. Would love to hear how you think about how much time to devote to this quest of making yourself better.
Well, kudos to you, Roy, for a very incredible run of this series. I've really enjoyed it, and it's just brought so much wisdom and so much betterment to the community and to me. So thank you for inviting me. So Zebras Unite was started by 4 women who very much did not pattern match the Silicon Valley status quo. We were just of a different stripe, is the way that we'll put it. We were very much about sort of how do we create broad prosperity? How do we build our companies in a way that's mutualistic, that benefits more stakeholders than just our investors? We just had a lot of desires for our companies to be engines of social change in a way that we weren't seeing with venture capital. And to be clear, our companies were profitable. They were and are, making revenue. And so, but we didn't want the Silicon Valley unicorn model. We were really hoping for something else. And so for those of you familiar with the movement, or if you're not, I suggest starting with our first blog post, Sex and Startups. That first line was startups.
Totally. I wouldn't want to click on anything titled that. I mean,
oh, you think you don't?
Yeah, right. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Totally. And at the time, we went very far with this metaphor of startups like the male anatomy are designed for liquidity events. And then we just kind of we rolled with it there. But basically what we were saying is that the current vernacular of startups and the language we use, we have to use a different language that really begins to include more companies, different companies of a different stripe. Zebras Unite is now an international movement with over 20 chapters around the world, with about 20,000 people in our network. And we're really we're a cooperative that's building the capital culture and community for the next economy, to include the 85% of entrepreneurs that are really left out of the entrepreneurial system as it currently stands.
Okay, so now tell me, you think from all of this dialogue with the community, how have you thought about this question of how do I decide how much time I should invest in improving myself?
I love this question. I actually kind of went deep in my archive to think about some stories and moments in my life. I have always been really interested in growing, and I'm a lifelong learner. And when I was about 20 years old, when I was about 23, after college, I hired a career coach. This coach's name was Julie Cohen, and I found her because she was in an article in the New York Times. And she helped me to clarify my values. And some of my values at the top of them were like an appreciation of beauty and excellence, creativity, a love of learning, curiosity and interest in the world, social intelligence. And so I highly recommend for those of you that are interested in exploring self-growth to first understand what your values are. So I dug up this document from when I was 26, and I kind of mapped my values against all of the professional experiences that I had ever held. And I talked about what I liked, what I didn't like, what I hated, and how they mapped onto my values. And suddenly everything just became really clear. So in terms of time, when I'm not working, I'm investing in myself in this regard. I think the one thing I will say, when I'd love to talk to you about this, is like when people hear the word upskill or learning, I think sometimes they think, okay, I'm going to enroll in like a business course. I have enrolled in courses on I'll just talk about some of the courses I did this year. Nora Bateson's Warm Data course, which is essentially exploring all of the data that's transmitted when two humans are in relationship with one another. I have done Carl Jung's The Black Books, which was the basis for his Red Book, which was just published this last year. It was a deep dive into Jung's Black Books. I have done open book management because I wanted to better understand how the co-op could have open financials. I have done Gaga dancing, which is this form of dancing popularized in Israel. So I can't begin to describe, like, all of those are up-leveling in ways that are so important to me professionally, but are not like the kind of the status quo MBA business skills that we think.
Yeah, I love that insight. It makes me think of, like, we did an improv training as a team, which I think, some of these things, they're not corporate, but then they become, like, enough corporate people do them that they become a little bit cliche. And I think improv is sort of one of those cliches. A frequent question so I love that insight that it could be kind of anything. And of course, aligning it with who you are feels really powerful. A question that, sometimes helps me is I often ask people, like job candidates or people I'm getting to know professionally, like, what's the thing that you feel like you need to learn or get better at? And, the range of answers, first of all, most people, I found about 50% of people like have a handy answer, like they know what it is. 50% of people are not really thinking that way. And if I think about, like, myself right now, I'm trying to learn how to take a wide array of ideas that I care about and pick which ones to focus on and learn how to advance those things. So like, the constant practice of the skill of focus, which I'm a zealot on, is something I'm trying to learn. Now, would I learn that better by learning how to draw, which I'm trying to do, or by, like, taking a business thing on, I don't know, like, who knows? We kind of experiment and it's all learning. So I love that way of thinking about it. And I do think that selecting what you wish to try to get better at, and also sometimes just letting in some whimsy too. That's the other thing, is like sometimes just like a little randomness coming in the front door. If you are, as you and I both are, privileged to be able to make choices about what kinds of things you want to learn and have the resources to be able to, like, go learn those things, whether it's your own practice or a class or whatever works for you. A little bit of randomness and serendipity also goes a long way, because you kind of learn the same things no matter what you learn. Having worked in, like, government and nonprofits and corporations, Mike Bloomberg has this joke about the difference between business and government is, in business, it's dog eat dog, and in government, it's the reverse. And I think there's sort of this meta lesson about no matter what you do, there are some shared elements of being great at it, and being around people who are better at something than you are is just always an amazing way to learn. So, yeah.
And a great place to start is Julia Cameron's The Artist Way.
I love that book. That is great. I haven't done it yet, but I've read it because my old writing coach told me to read it, and then my wife had heard about it, whatever. But yeah, what did you find valuable about that?
She has this idea of an artist's date, where you go solo and you just design for yourself an entire day of your dream day, how you want to spend it, how you want to get inspired. I often ask myself, like, what would my 8-year-old self want to do? And it's kind of this combination of, like, listening to music, cleaning my room, listening to lectures, drawing, making collages, writing letters. And so you can start with kind of these informal spaces, but so long as you carve that time out for yourself. So, the question that is asked of, like, how much time, I don't even know if it's important how much time, but I think the one recommendation, which was wisdom that I received from one of my mentors, Howard Rheingold, is just, it's important for it to be a daily practice. So whatever you can do, if you can invest 5 minutes a day in learning something, if that's going to a Wikipedia page or whatever it is,
I love that.
I think that that's really the way that I would answer that. It's not about how much, it's just about a regular, consistent practice.
Yeah, and an unfortunately cheesily titled book, but that I've found helpful on this, is Robert Moorer's One Small Step Can Change Your Life.
Totally.
And like, Kaizen way, and been used in plenty of different settings, but that gradual, daily, incremental practice. So the direct answer to the question, I guess, is it doesn't quite matter how much time you do. But if you do it every day, there's compounding results. And, this is not advice, is kind of, we do try some physician heal thyself stuff, but at least Monday through Thursday every day. All right. Well, that is today's This Is Not Advice. And for anybody who's watching for the first time, the reason we call it that is because neither of us knows what you should be doing with your life. We know our perspectives on things. And in this case, we don't even have like a prescriptive answer. It's how to figure it out. And, we're just trying to be useful to others in their journey to try to figure it out, and to be continued.
So grateful for this time together, Roy.
Thank you, Mara.
Thank you. Be well.